You know how sometimes you just want the core idea, the real essence of something important, without getting totally lost in the weeds?
Definitely that urge for that aha moment.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing right here. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something absolutely fundamental: habits.
Yeah, habits. We've got some really insightful material here that it really breaks down the science behind how they're formed.
And crucially, how to change them, right?
Exactly. How to actually get the tools to change them.
Mm.
It's kind of amazing how these little routines, day in, day out, just shape the whole picture of our lives.
It really is. And look, this isn't about just, try harder or relying on sheer willpower.
No, definitely not.
Our mission here is to pull out the key actionable stuff from this material. We want to give you a really clear understanding of why you do what you do.
And how you can make those actions actually work for you, not against you.
Right. We're talking about the brain science, the hidden triggers, the practical strategies.
All packaged up so you get the knowledge, but hopefully without feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, a shortcut to understanding this crucial stuff.
And the source material we're drawing from is, well, it's pretty comprehensive. It covers a whole spectrum.
From the neurology.
Yeah, the nuts and bolts in the brain, all the way to very practical, step-by-step ways to build the good habits.
And ditch the bad ones.
And ditch the bad ones we'd rather live without.
Okay, let's dive in. The author of this work we're looking at, they have this really compelling personal story.
Right, the injury.
Yeah, a serious accident, broken nose, facial fractures, eye injury, even a coma. And the recovery wasn't some overnight miracle.
No, it was a long road, which, interestingly, led to becoming an academic All-American.
And the key thing he stresses is that there wasn't one single defining moment.
It was about small wins.
Exactly. A whole series of small wins adding up.
Which is fascinating because it immediately sets up this core idea we'll keep seeing, right? That big change usually comes from tiny, consistent efforts piling up.
It's the perfect illustration of habit formation itself.
That compounding effect, those tiny wins.
And it wasn't just the physical side. His whole thinking on habits actually grew out of his own writing online.
Started back in, what, 2012?
Yeah, November 2012. He was basically just sharing his own experiments, what he was figuring out about habits.
And it clearly resonated. I mean, the numbers grew fast, 1,000 email subscribers pretty quickly.
Then over 30,000 by the end of 2013.
And hitting over 100,000 in 2014. That's serious growth.
It really shows people are hungry for this stuff,
Yeah.
understanding how to improve.
Totally. And it's interesting. He talks about feeling like an imposter at first.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think a lot of us can relate to when we step into something new.
For sure.
But just by consistently doing the work, sharing what he learned, he kind of organically became this recognized voice.
Which then led to the book deal in 2015, speaking gigs at major companies.
Yeah, a real evolution.
Okay, so let's get into the core concepts. This idea of habits as the compound interest of self-improvement.
That's powerful. It really is. Think about it like financial compounding, but for your life. Those small daily actions seem insignificant on their own.
Brushing your teeth, reading one page.
Exactly. But repeated consistently over time, they lead to massive results.
The material calls habits lagging measures. I like that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Your current bank balance is a lagging measure of your past saving habits.
Your weight is a lagging measure of your eating habits.
Your knowledge, a lagging measure of your learning habits, the clutter in your house.
A lagging measure of your cleaning habits. It boils down to you get what you repeat.
Simple, but profound.
And those tiny gains or tiny losses, just that 1% better or worse each day.
Over 10, 20 years, the difference is huge. It's staggering, really.
Things like spending just a little less than you earn consistently.
Or hitting the gym, even for a short session a few times a week.
Reading a few pages of a book each night. It adds up.
But, and this is crucial, the progress isn't always visible right away.
Ah, yes. The plateau of latent potential.
Exactly. And the valley of disappointment. People get frustrated because they're putting in the effort.
But they don't see the results immediately. It feels like it's not working.
Right. The material uses the analogy of heating an ice cube.
From 25 to 31 degrees?
You're putting in energy, work is being done, but nothing looks different.
Until you hit 32 degrees.
Bang, the breakthrough, the melting starts. That stored work finally shows itself.
So that overnight success story is usually Well, it's usually years of unseen effort finally crossing a threshold.
Precisely. The work was happening all along, under the surface.
Okay, so given that, the material argues we should focus less on the end goals themselves.
And more on the systems that lead to those goals.
Why is that distinction so critical?
Well, think about it. If you only focus on the result, like, say, cleaning your messy room.
Okay, done. Feels good.
Right. But if you don't change the system, the sloppy habits that made it messy in the first place.
It's just going to get messy again.
Exactly. Yeah. Solving problems only at the results level is often temporary. You need to fix the inputs, the processes, the system.
That's where the lasting improvement comes from. Build the machine that produces the outcome you want.
You got it. Don't just chase the outcome.
It really shifts the focus. And what about this idea that goals can actually kind of limit our happiness?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. That once I reach my goal, then I'll be happy trap.
We've all been there.
Right. You're constantly postponing feeling good until you hit the next milestone.
And it sets up this win-or-lose situation. Either you hit the goal and you're happy for a moment, or you miss it and you feel like a failure.
It's very black and white. The key insight here is finding satisfaction in the process, in the system itself, not just waiting for the finish line.
Okay, that leads nicely into this concept of identity-based habits. This feels really fundamental.
It is. It's about shifting from I want this outcome to I am this type of person.
So it's not just I want to run a marathon, it's I am a runner.
Precisely. Our behaviors are often just reflecting the identity we hold, consciously or not.
Right.
If you see yourself as a healthy person,
You're more likely to make healthy choices automatically. It aligns with who you are.
exactly. The material cites studies showing people who identify as being a voter are more likely to actually vote than those who just see it as an action they should do.
So when the behavior aligns with your identity, it just feels easier, more natural.
Much easier. You're not fighting yourself. You're just acting in accordance with who you believe you are.
And it works both ways, doesn't it? The habits shape the identity.
And the identity shapes the habits. It's a feedback loop.
So the ultimate goal isn't just achieving something, it's becoming someone.
That's the North Star. Identity change is the core of lasting habit change. The focus should be on who you want to be.
Okay, powerful stuff. Let's get really practical now with the 4 laws of behavior change. This is the framework, right?
That's the bedrock. It breaks down the habit process into 4 simple steps that always happen in the same order.
Cue, craving, response, reward.
That's the loop. Every single habit follows this pattern.
Okay, let's unpack them. First up, the cue, the trigger.
Right. The cue is just a bit of information that predicts a reward is coming. It tells your brain, hey, do this thing, something good might happen.
Like seeing food.
That's a primary cue, tied to survival, food, water, safety. But we also respond to secondary cues linked to rewards like money, status, praise, connection.
Satisfaction.
Or just satisfaction, yeah. Our brains are constantly scanning for these cues.
And often we don't even notice them consciously.
Not at all. That notification sound on your phone, that's a cue. The smell of coffee brewing, cue. Seeing the TV remote, cue.
The material had those funny examples, like the teacher asking adults if they wash their hands.
Or the lifeguard yelling, walk, even when they weren't at the pool anymore. The cue becomes so automatic.
Which really highlights why the first step has to be awareness. You need to notice your current habits and their cues.
Absolutely. You can't change what you don't see. Once a habit is automatic, it's invisible.
So how do you bring them into the light?
The material suggests using a habit scorecard. Just literally list out your daily actions to make them conscious.
Like an audit of your day.
Exactly. And it mentions that Japanese railway system technique.
Ah, pointing and calling.
Yeah. Physically pointing at signals and calling out their status. It forces awareness, reduces errors dramatically. A bit extreme for daily life, maybe, but the principle is sound. Make the unconscious conscious.
Okay, so the cue triggers things. What's next?
The craving. This is the motivation, the desire. It's not usually a craving for the habit itself, but for the change in state it produces.
So you don't crave smoking, you crave the feeling of stress relief it brings you.
Precisely. It's the prediction of reward that fuels the craving.
Got it. Craving leads to...
The response, the actual habit you perform. Could be an action, could be a thought.
And whether you actually do it depends on...
How motivated you are, the strength of that craving, and how easy the action is. Ability matters.
Makes sense. And the final piece.
The reward. The payoff. This satisfies the craving and tells your brain, hey, that sequence worked. Let's remember it for next time.
It closes the loop.
It closes the loop. Pleasure, satisfaction, relief. These are the feedback signals that reinforce the habit. Our brains are reward detectors.
So for a habit to stick, all four stages need to be solid. Cue, craving, response, reward.
If any one of them is weak or missing, the habit won't form or it'll break down.
Eliminate the cue. Habit never starts. No craving, no motivation. Too difficult. No response. Reward unsatisfying. Brain won't repeat it.
That's the core logic. You need all four.
All right, let's use this. How do we build good habits using law #1? Make it obvious.
Okay, so this loops back to the power of environment. Remember Kurt Lewin? Behavior is a function of the person in their environment.
UFPE. Our surroundings trigger us constantly.
Hugely. Your behavior in a quiet church is vastly different than at a loud concert, right? Habits get glued to their context.
Which means if you want to build a new habit.
Sometimes changing your environment helps immensely. You're not fighting old cues.
So design your space. Make the cues for good habits really visible.
Exactly. Want to read more? Leave the book on your pillow. Want to drink more water? Keep a bottle on your desk. Want to practice guitar? Leave it out on a stand. Not in the case.
Simple but effective. And what about implementation intentions?
Yeah, that's super powerful. It's making a specific plan. I will behavior at time and location.
I will meditate for 5 minutes at 7 a.m. in my living room.
Perfect. That specificity makes the cue, time and location, and the response, meditation, crystal clear for your brain. It dramatically increases follow-through.
And then there's habit stacking, building on what you already do.
Right. Link a new habit to an existing one. After I current habit, I will new habit.
After I brush my teeth, I will floss one tooth.
Exactly. Find those reliable anchor habits you do every day without thinking, making coffee, getting dressed, whatever, and attach the new habit right after it. Your habit scorecard helps find those anchors.
It's all about making the good choice the path of least resistance, the most obvious path.
Totally. Think about why you grab certain snacks or visit certain coffee shops. Often, it's just because they're there. They're obvious, available.
So sprinkle your environment with triggers for the good stuff.
Make the healthy choice the easy choice. And organizing your space helps too, that one space, one use idea.
Right. Don't work on the couch where you watch TV if you can help it. Keep context separate.
Avoid mixing cues. It makes focus harder.
Okay, that's making good habits obvious. What about the inverse? Making bad habits invisible.
Same logic, just flipped. If the cue triggers the habit, get rid of the cue.
Cut it off at the source.
Exactly. Bad habits are often autocatalytic. The cue leads to craving, response, reward, which reinforces the cue. It's a cycle.
And just trying to resist the cue with willpower.
It's draining. It rarely works long-term. It's much easier to just remove the temptation in the first place.
Put the cookies on the highest shelf, or better yet, don't buy them.
Put your phone in another room when you need to focus. Unsubscribe from tempting emails. Make the cue invisible.
The source mentions that Vietnam War heroin example. High usage over there, where cues were everywhere.
But remarkably low relapse rates when soldiers came home to a completely different cue-poor environment. Environment is incredibly powerful.
It also means some common sense approaches can backfire, right?
Yeah, like shaming smokers with graphic images. It can increase stress.
Which is often a cue for smoking in the first place.
Exactly. You have to make the trigger invisible, not just highlight the negative outcome.
Okay. Law #2. Make it attractive. How do we boost the wanting?
This taps into dopamine. Our brains release dopamine not just when we get a reward, but in anticipation of it.
So the expectation is motivating.
Hugely motivating. The more attractive, the more appealing a habit seems, the stronger that anticipatory dopamine hit, the stronger the craving.
So we need to make good habits more appealing. Find the enjoyment.
Or create it. That's where temptation bundling comes in.
Pairing something you want to do with something you need to do, right? After I habit I need, I will habit I want. Like after I fold the laundry, I get to check Instagram.
Or the classic, only listen to my favorite podcast while I'm at the gym.
Exactly. You link the chore to a treat, making the chore itself more attractive.
And social forces play a big role here too, don't they? Fitting in.
Oh, massively. We're herd animals. We want to belong, to gain approval. Behaviors are attractive if they help us fit in.
So we imitate people around us.
Especially 3 groups. The close, family, friends. The many, our tribe, the cultural norm. And the powerful, those with status we admire.
That story about smoking a turkey becoming popular because it was what the in crowd did.
A perfect example. Social norms shape our desires.
So a strategy is to join a group where your desired behavior is already the norm.
Absolutely. Surround yourself with people who make the habit you want seem normal, even attractive, their behavior rubs off on you.
Okay, inverse of law 2. Make bad habits unattractive, less appealing.
This is more about mindset, reframing the craving.
Recognizing that a craving is just a thought, a sensation. You don't have to act on it. You can observe it and reinterpret it.
Like the meditation example, frustration isn't failure. It's a chance of practice refocusing.
Or pre-performance nerves aren't fear. They're excitement, energy. You change the story you tell yourself about the feeling.
Reduce its power over you.
Exactly. And consciously focus on the downsides of the bad habit. Don't just think about the fleeting pleasure. Really emphasize the negative consequences in your mind. Make it seem less appealing overall.
Okay, law hashtag 3. Make it easy. Reduce the effort.
Yes. And first, a key distinction. Motion versus action.
Motion is planning, researching, strategizing.
Action is doing the thing that actually produces the result.
We often get stuck in motion because it feels productive, but it lets us avoid potential failure.
Totally. The source says focus on action, even tiny action. Get started.
And what forms the habit isn't how long you do it, but how often.
Frequency, not duration. Repetition is key. That's what carves the neural pathways.
Like those London taxi drivers with bigger hippocampi from constantly navigating. Practice changes the brain.
Exactly. So how do we make good habits easy to repeat? By embracing the law of least effort.
We naturally drift towards the easiest option.
So reduce the friction for good habits. Make them easier to do than not do.
Laying out workout clothes the night before.
Pre-chopping vegetables for the week. Setting up automatic bill payments.
Using technology to automate things.
Anything that removes steps and makes the starting easier. Think like those Japanese lean production systems relentlessly remove waste and friction.
Even companies do this, right? Fewer clicks to buy something.
Absolutely. Reduce frictions, increase conversion. It works for websites. It works for habits.
And priming the environment for future use. Resetting the room.
Yeah, tidying up right after you finish an activity so it's ready for the next time. Reduces the startup friction for the next session.
Smart. Okay, inverse of law 3. Make bad habits difficult. Increase friction.
Make the unwanted behavior harder to do. Require more effort.
Like using a commitment device.
Exactly. A choice you make now that locks in better behavior later. Like asking a gym buddy to meet you adds social cost if you bail.
Or that cash register example, making theft physically harder.
Increase the steps involved. Hide the cigarettes in the garage instead of your pocket.
Use website blockers or app timers that force a delay or limit access.
Anything that adds friction, makes you pause, makes the bad habit less convenient. The more effort it takes, the less likely you are to do it.
Okay, final law hashtag 4. Make it satisfying. The reward matters.
Absolutely. We repeat what feels good. The problem is, many good habits have delayed rewards.
Exercise, saving money, eating healthy. The payoff is way down the road.
But our brains evolved for immediate gratification. We prioritize now over later.
So we need to inject some immediate satisfaction into good habits.
Exactly. Find a way to give yourself a little win right after you do the habit. Reinforce it immediately.
Choose rewards that align with the identity you're building.
Right. Yes. Don't reward going to the gym with a giant pizza if your goal is to be healthy. Maybe the reward is tracking your workout or enjoying a relaxing bath.
Ah, habit tracking. That's satisfying in itself.
It can be incredibly satisfying. Seeing the streak grow, visually proving your progress, it provides immediate positive feedback. That don't break the chain effect is a powerful motivator.
Okay, and the inverse. Make bad habits unsatisfying. Immediate consequences.
Make the unwanted behavior immediately painful or costly in some way.
Like a habit contract.
Yeah, a formal agreement, maybe with a penalty. The example of the guy who'd have to wear an Alabama hat as a rival fan if he skipped a workout.
Ouch. That adds immediate stakes.
Or just having an accountability partner you have to report to. The potential shame or disappointment adds an immediate cost.
Okay, so those are the 4 laws. What about advanced tactics?
Well, aligning habits with your natural talents helps. Play games where the odds are in your favor, so to speak. Genes predispose, but don't predetermine.
And the Goldilocks rule.
Keep things challenging, but not too challenging. Peak motivation is when a task is just slightly beyond your current ability, maybe 4% harder. Keeps you engaged.
Not too easy, not too hard.
Just right. But the biggest threat long-term isn't failure. It's often boredom.
When the habit becomes routine.
You have to find ways to stay engaged, to fall in love with boredom, as the material puts it. Professionals stick to the schedule even when they don't feel like it. Amateurs only work when inspired.
And keep reflecting, reviewing, looking for ways to improve.
Continuous improvement is key for mastery.
So wrapping this all up, the real secret to making it all last.
It comes back to identity. Lasting change is identity change.
Believing you are the kind of person who does these things.
And breaking down old limiting beliefs, satisfaction comes from progress, from acting in line with who you want to be.
All right.
Remember, emotion drives action. The craving comes first.
And managing desire is key to satisfaction. Liking minus wanting equals satisfaction.
It all comes down to the power of those small habits. Practice consistently, guided by the identity you're building. That's the path to significant change.
Wow. Okay, so recapping this deep dive. We've gone from the author's journey through compounding, systems over goals, identity,
And drilled down into those 4 laws. Make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And they're inverses for breaking bad habits.
It really feels like a practical toolkit understanding these fundamentals, a shortcut to making real changes.
Definitely. It moves beyond just wishing and hoping and into building actual systems for self-improvement, for becoming who you want to be.
So as you, our listener, think about all this, maybe consider, what's just one tiny habit you could tweak right now using one of these laws?
Yeah, what's one way you could make a good habit just a little more obvious, or a bit more attractive, or easier, or more immediately satisfying?
Or make a bad habit slightly less appealing or a touch harder to do? Which idea really clicked for you today?
It's about that first small step. Consistently taken, that's where the magic happens.
Thanks for taking this deep dive into the science of habits with us. We really hope you found some valuable insights to put into practice.